Hey Lisa, so yeah, the knife that you thought looked so nasty. This is it. I mean, you could still do some damage, but I think some of the things that you saw, um, like this is a serrated. I mean, I guess if you stab somebody, that would still hurt like fuck, but it's meant to. There's some emergency features on this, like this part here. Say somebody's trapped in their car and it's burning or they're sinking underwater. You can use that to shatter car type windows because they have that shatter into pieces feature. I don't know, whatever you call it. That sounds really uneducated, doesn't it? This, I think, is meant for, like, somebody needs their seatbelt sawed off. You got that. I think this is a can opener. Not a can opener, I'm sorry, a bottle opener. I did some reading on the laws, and it's really interesting. Knife laws are really muddled these days. They were more uniform in the past, but now, oh yeah, and if you want to close this, I don't know if I can do it one-handed. You have to push this thing in, and there we go. So, in the old days, knives were more common as a weapon, and there were straight up bans on them for racial reasons. You had post-Civil War, they were prohibited altogether because people were worried about freed slaves who were angry, arming themselves and going after plantation owners. And freed slaves could afford a knife, but not a revolver, whereas the white man could afford a revolver because, money. In the Southwest and the West, there was a prohibition on them for a while because of another racial aspect. Tejanos, which were essentially Mexican cowboys, favored blade culture, and they also, just like the freed slaves, a lot of them couldn't afford guns if they wanted, so it was a way of disarming minorities that were seen as dangerous back then. Then things were relaxed a bit, and there were certain kinds that were outlawed. And the last reactionary knife thing I can think of that was really major was switchblades. You know what a switchblade is? A switchblade is like you hit something like this, and it just automatically comes up. And they banned those largely because of gangs, street gangs. That was the weapon they favored. And they're still outlawed. See, this is not really a switchblade. It's really funny. God, so much I could say. Basically, there used to be more attention paid to them, but I think that it's largely gone ignored because guns are more prolific nowadays, and they're at least perceived to pose more of a threat. And I think going back and overhauling all the knife laws would probably be seen as a waste of time, a waste of lawmaker time and taxpayer money. So, but there are still all these really numerous regulations that exist, and they're very different from state to state. There are some things that are pretty common, like straight up stabbing weapons, like stilettos, poignards, daggers are pretty much okay. You can have anything you want in your own home. So those swords that you and Paul have, totally fine. Anything. You couldn't wear one of those swords out and carry it in public. So Bowie knives, stilettos, daggers, poignards, rapiers, whatever. Can't carry them in public. Switchblades, can have those at home, can't carry them in public. So another common regulation is blades generally can't be longer than 5.5 inches. So like this one is about 4. Now, it's very similar to a switchblade, but see, with a switchblade, you barely put any pressure and it would just pop out. This, you have to actually push with your finger, your digit, for like a fraction of an inch, and then the spring catches and it pops out. So basically they're just skirting the law by a fraction of an inch. Also, the blade can't be made specifically for just battle or for killing. It has to be seen as something that has multiple purpose, multiple utility. So, you know, normally you'd think Swiss Army knife, but you know, they put things like bottle openers, glass smashers, the serration for cutting seatbelt straps. I mean, they are useful, but largely it's so people who aren't like into guns, who are like hikers or whatever, who go out at night alone, can carry something like this and not be dinged for breaking the law. When they make commercials for these, I mean, they sell them on, you know, they show people using the utility features, and they don't really focus so much on the self-defense aspect. But I think that's because even though most people don't want to work on overhauling the knife regulation system, too much, I don't know, overt advertising might call a little bit too much attention. So it's really, really funny. I mean, you know, the way it is, it should honestly be wiped clean and then rewritten, but there's just so much of it, you know. And what people kept doing was just like erasing part of it and then putting a new thing in, and it's just, that's why it's this big muddled mess. I don't really have any personal feelings on it one way or the other. I'm not becoming a knife rights activist or whatever. I just think it's very interesting, the differences between gun laws and knife laws. I don't really think one has it worse than the other. With knives, as long as you have something that fits the law of your state, you can carry it openly or concealed, and you don't need a license. So either you can or you can't, period. You know, no permits, no nothing. Certain groups of the military and law enforcement can carry a few types that are generally prohibited for citizens, but again, that varies state to state. There was this interesting thing they did in Texas for a while, which, you know, Texas, big time gun rights state, right? But I guess with the huge Latino population, you know, they were also very, I think it was ranked as like, San Antonio, my city, was ranked as like the 4th worst knife rights city in the entire country for a while. The federal mandate is no blade longer than 5.5 inches, and then San Antonio put in this statute that said you can't have a blade shorter than 5.5 inches, which makes no fucking sense, but it was allowed to go on the books, which meant that either you had to have something exactly 5.5 inches, and if it was off by a little bit, you could get fined. So it was basically a way of saying no knives, period. They also outlawed for a while fixed blades, so, you know, this locks into place, so that way, say you're cutting or something, it's not going to fold over into your fingers when you're operating it. You know, and they outlawed those for a while, which I thought that was stupid reading it. But no, those got taken off the books just last year, actually, just September of last year. So last year, this thing here would have been illegal. You know, I wouldn't get like arrested and thrown in jail, but I would have been fined maybe a couple $100 if I, you know, somebody attacked me and I defended myself with this. You know, I wouldn't get in trouble for defending myself, but simply having this, I would be, well, carrying it. Anyway, yeah, interesting little bit of history. It doesn't get covered much because most of the attention, whether it's, you know, people who were against weapons or people who were seriously for weapons, all the attention is pretty much on guns. And I can understand that because, you know, not many mass stabbings happen. Even then, they're not always completely fatal, where, yeah, you know, you can just press a trigger and, you know, mow down like 5 or 6 people. And not to mention the distance. But anyway, okay, made this long enough.